Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a magical Monday or whatever day of the week you're watching this. Today's video I'm super excited about because I've never really talked about this on my channel, but I think that it's something that definitely affects me and it definitely affects a lot of people. I'm sure you have heard of Mercury Retrograde. So today we're gonna be talking a little bit about what that means, something that I made to kind of help get you through Mercury Retrograde, and just really good ways that you can prepare for the next retro. So I wanted to let you know the next retrograde is November 1st through November 18th, and it is in the sign Scorpio, which we're not even gonna dive into that because I know a lot of you guys on here are very new to astrology, so I don't wanna freak anybody out. Before we get into the video, if you guys are new here, my name is Taylluna. Welcome to our spirituality hippie channel. I'm so happy that you're here. Make sure to subscribe down below, become part of our tribe, and give this video a thumbs up if you are excited. Maybe not for retrograde, but to learn about how to cope with retrograde. I'm gonna give you all the tips that I've got, okay? I promise. So for those of you who really don't know what retrograde means, all of these planets have their own orbit. They all move and rotate, and there are a couple times throughout the year, I think it's like 3 or 4 times throughout the year. In 2019, it looks like this happened 3 times. So basically what it is Mercury itself, it will appear to us on Earth that Mercury actually goes the opposite direction. It really doesn't go the opposite direction. We have learned that now through science and stuff like that. But if you look at the patterns that it makes in the sky, and if you think like way back in ancient times when people are looking up at the stars and trying to figure all this stuff out, it appears to be going backwards. So a lot of people have associated this time with kind of a backwards energy, a more like negative connotation. And I feel like that can be true for some things, but I think that Mercury retrograde also does a lot of good as well. It just all depends on your intention going into it, your energy going into it. So I wanted to chat about that today so we can avoid some of the more negative aspects of retrograde and really tap into the good, maybe not positive in the meantime, but overall it's going to do a lot of positive changes, I guess, for you. Retrograde does a lot for us. There's a couple like ground rules that a lot of people have set for the time of retrograde. So Mercury is the ruler of the throat chakra, and the throat chakra is the energy place, the energy source in your body that regulates your ability to communicate, and not only communicate, but communicate your truth, and the ability to also be open to other people's truths as well, especially when they're different from our own. So that is a huge factor in the retrograde. When Mercury goes the opposite direction, it can sometimes really cloud up your throat chakra, making it either hard to communicate, hard to understand other people. You might get a little bit more frustrated with things during this time. So I really wanted to chat today mostly about that, because I find that going into retrograde with a more like, okay, I'm balancing my throat chakra. I know what my truth is. I know what my triggers are for other people. So if I can kind of deal with those beforehand, when you go into retrograde, it's not gonna be as intense, if that makes sense. A couple other random things before we get more into the throat chakra stuff. They say to avoid making any really big life-changing decisions during this time. So that could be signing any documents, legal contracts, starting new projects, starting new relationships, buying a house, you know, anything that's really big like that, just because everything gets a little cloudy during this time. But I think also, and this is like been programmed into all of our heads, if you have watched Mercury retrograde videos, they're all gonna tell you the same thing. Don't sign contracts, don't get into new relationships, don't do X, Y, and Z. And for some people, yes, that may, you know, resonate with you, but I recently watched an oldie from Koi Fresco, and he really talked about how this was just kind of like conditioned into our head to be this like negative negative thing. And it doesn't have to be, you know, it's all about your intention, your interpretation of it. So if you go into it with a different mindset, then wow, everything is gonna mess itself up this month. You know, you won't have that fear or that hesitation to do things that are still in alignment with your journey, even though it's during this time period. One thing though that I will say is Mercury retrograde also really messes with technology. So regardless of your energy or your interpretation of this time, I really recommend to, you know, like back up all of your computers, back up your phones, make sure you have everything saved. This is definitely a time for me that I find a lot of technological issues to arise. And this can also, like I said, be teaching you a lesson. But sometimes that's just really frustrating. I'm a college student, so having an entire paper deleted is definitely not a lesson that I need to learn. Oh my goodness. So yeah, just back up all of your things, save your things, take care of your car. I would get your car if you need to get an oil change or, you know, fill up the air in your tires, anything like that. I would definitely recommend doing before the retrograde, just to be safe. So tapping more into the throat chakra thing that we were talking about, some of the best ways that you can prepare for Mercury retrograde is to be very clear about your overall goal, your overall your truth, I guess, if you will. Why are you here on this earth, and what kind of things fall into alignment with that and what sort of things don't. This could be a tempting time for those things to come up that are really not in alignment with your overall goal, and we're human beings. You're gonna dive into those things from time to time, and that's totally okay. But just being really clear with your soul's purpose is super important. If you are not that clear with it yet, let's work together. I'm gonna leave some links down there. I can definitely help you figure that out. But basically, you can really do this through meditation. You can do this through just examining your life so far and looking at what things really connected with you and what things you really didn't connect with. This is really important because, again, this is all about your ability to communicate and to understand other people. And if you are really clear about how you feel, or you're really clear about your purpose here on earth, it'll be easier to dodge the things that don't feel so aligned with that, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I decided to create, and I have one of these left on my shop, I'm definitely gonna be making more, so if you want more, just send me a message. But I decided, because I am the kind of person who really likes to visualize when I do meditations, when I do healing things, you know, all the goods, I decided it would be fun to make a throat chakra themed candle for the Mercury retrograde. So this is my adorable little candle. So this is the candle that I decided to make for the throat chakra for Mercury retrograde. It is blue for the throat chakra color. It has lavender in it and clear quartz as well. And it's in this super cute little teacup that comes with a saucer. How cute is that? Oh, I'm obsessed with her. My battery's about to die, so BRB. So yeah, this is something that I made to be able to not only prepare for the Mercury retrograde, but keep me sane during it as well. Though you may be super clear on how you feel, remember that this is also a time that affects everybody else. So if somebody else isn't super clear in their purpose, or if somebody else isn't living up to their purpose quite yet in their journey, they might be triggered by you. They might be triggered by your progress. They might be triggered by your incredible message, but you have to remember that you cannot take it personally. This goes for, honestly, all the time. You are a reflection of other people and vice versa. So if somebody reacts negatively to something that you do, that's because they feel negatively about that in themselves, not because of you. Keep that in mind forever until you die, please. Because you are showing up, you are doing the work, and that is beautiful. And again, it's just gonna trigger some people. And that's okay. They will, you know, they will live up to their purpose. They will be on their journey, and it just might be a little bit different than yours. So that's why I love this. It's really hard sometimes to remember that, and to, you know, we're all human beings. It hurts sometimes when people are negative about that, especially when you work so hard to get to this point in your journey. So what I do with this is kind of just like a little ritual. Usually I would light it up and I would show you how I do it, but I don't want to light this up because I want one of you to have it. So I'm gonna just set the scene for you. Right before the retrograde begins, and this can be a week before, a few days before, whatever feels good for you, this is a good time to sit down, and you're gonna wanna light your Mercury Retrograde / throat chakra candle and do a little meditation. Sit and just kind of be in your own head a little bit. Usually when you meditate, you try and just block all of your thoughts out, or you just kind of like notice them and let them go away. But this is a really good time to meditate and really listen to your thoughts. Take note of your thoughts. This is a good time to like do some journaling. I love to do that. It helps me kind of organize it all instead of just keeping it all up in my head. You're gonna wanna organize all of the thoughts that you have running around your brain into things that are helpful for you and your purpose, and things that maybe aren't. You know, those negative feelings, the trigger feelings, things like that. Yes, we can learn a lot from them, but just being able to separate them is super, super important. You can go back and do that shadow work later. So once you do that, you get a little bit more tapped into what things feel in alignment and what things don't feel in alignment. It's really good to almost kind of pre-work a little bit here and figure out, okay, what things might be a potential trigger to some people, or what things might even be a potential trigger to myself. How might I respond to other people and things that are going on, especially during this time? And remember to kind of sit down and, like we were talking about earlier, remember that everything is just kind of an energetic mirror on this planet. So if you kind of almost pre-game your that's a terrible way to put it. Pre-gaming for what possible things might be coming up during the retrograde for you. So maybe there's somebody in your life that is definitely jealous of you. They might be acting negatively towards you, or maybe sometimes they're really good and happy to see you and other times they're just really, really not. If you kind of think about all of those things and think about all of the people that you interact with on a regular basis, almost prepare yourself for any sort of response that they might have during this time. It's really, really nice to be able to do this because you can kind of prepare yourself a little bit. Mercury retrograde is a time where a lot of people like kind of go in. Mercury retrograde sets a lot of wrongs right, and though it may be really hard and uncomfortable, it's really important to remember to stick to your truth, stick to your overall goal, and remember that the way other people respond to what you're doing has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them and their journey and, you know, their lack maybe of working on themselves. And that's no shade at all. We're all in different places and that's totally, totally okay. But you have to remember that when people are doing the work like you and I, it really triggers other people. And that can definitely hinder your personal growth if you think about it negatively like that. So this is like my main theme for retrograde. Remember that you are living up to your purpose, you are living in your truth, and it does not matter how other people respond to what you're doing as long as you know that you're doing the absolute best work you can be doing here. It just doesn't matter. They will figure it out in time. With that being said, retrograde is also a time where a lot of things that are going wrong in your life will start going in the other direction. And this can be super uncomfortable. I'm gonna give you an example. So my last relationship, I dated a guy for like a 1.5-ish. And I wanna say, this is gonna sound awful, but this is a real human being example. I, for like half of our relationship, knew that I needed to break up with him. I knew that he was not my person. I knew that he was not making the progress in his journey that was in alignment with mine. And again, this is completely okay. He is entitled to taking as much time as he needs to do whatever he wants on his journey. That's totally beautiful and okay. But that all of that energy is just kind of reflects. So if I'm watching somebody, if I'm in a relationship with somebody who is super stagnant and doesn't really know what they want and isn't doing the work on their journey maybe yet, or maybe in the way that I am, it's going to affect me in a negative way. So I had to cut those ties. I had to do that for my growth, because I know that I will meet somebody who is on the same vibrational frequency as I am. Me keeping him in my life is hindering my growth in that way. It is keeping me from meeting somebody who is going to be on my frequency and be doing the work like I am. And that's not fair to me. That is not living in my truth. And that is keeping him from figuring out his. Something like that is definitely a thing that Mercury retrograde can trigger. And no, I'm not saying that you're gonna all have to break up with your significant others. That is not what I'm saying. But just to kind of give you guys an example, a lot of times we hold on to things that, you know, make us happy in the moment or whatever, and it's just not overall good for us. It is hindering us in some way, and Mercury retrograde is definitely a time where it's just going to highlight all of those things in your life. So remembering, like, the theme of this video, to really hone in on what your truth is and to really live into that, and like have no fear, no regrets. Anything about doing that is super important. So I love to use this candle as a little meditation opportunity to sit down and tap into all of those energies. It brings a lot of strength out in you that you maybe didn't realize that you had, especially when we go through those really difficult times and stuff like that. Of course, after my breakup, it took months for me to really feel like I was myself again. And even though I was coming back into myself, I was completely different than who I was when I entered the relationship. So remembering that sticking to your truth is only going to help you, even though it might come with a lot of human growing pains, it is so worth it to just be in your truth. Do it for yourself, because I promise, it's worth it. If you have any growing pains, I'm always here. You can always reach out. A lot of you, a lot of you have been reaching out to me on Instagram and sending me your plant pictures and your room pictures and your crystal pictures, and it makes my heart so happy to be connecting with you in that way. So please, if you ever need anything, reach out. I am also going to be now offering different intuitive card readings on my website, so maybe you aren't sure what things in life are hindering you in some way, or maybe you just need a little bit more guidance, you need a broader message, head to my website. We can chat and we can kind of organize a time that would be best to do a reading for you. I would love to offer and hold that space for you so much. So let me know if you are interested in that. I'll leave all the links down below. I have one candle left for my Mercury retrograde teacups, but I will definitely have some other Mercury retrograde candles available on my website. I haven't launched it yet, but if you head to taylluna.com/shop, I have all kinds of goodies there. I'm gonna be listing my Mercury retrograde candles on there, and if you use the code LUNA11, you will get 11% off your order. And I'm so excited to officially launch this online store with all of these ritualistic goods and things that you can use in your practice. So head on over there and grab one in case they run out. You definitely want to have them for this next retrograde. Ooh, I promise it will help you oh so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you're inspired to live in your truth always, and never ever feel ashamed for doing that or feel guilty for doing that ever. I promise you it's worth it. With all of that said, I love you guys to the moon and back, and I will see you either on Wednesday or Friday for the next video. Bye, you guys. Mwah.